We're back.
Well, actually, we shouldn't say we're back. This is actually the start. Now, what we've done is we've got this nice software so we can do little shoots of, say, 10, 15 minutes. We walked around the house, etc. So we'll put this one in the front of our talk. And then you'll be able to go to the various websites which we've got on another part. And when we upload this, we'll be able to, I think.
So this is in keeping with all of the books that you've written, self-published through Lulu, who have taken it upon themselves to put prices like $600 when it was free to download. However,
well, let's go back to the story. When I made these books up, you buy a book online or you can download it for free. And the idea was for people who wanted, you could download for free. And it was going out to 900,000, get this number.
Supposedly.
Supposedly it was supposed to go to 900,000 bookstores around the world, and it had the codes that you could punch in, available on Amazon in America and England. And when you go there, after I'd paid all this money to have it done, there was about 15 books on various subjects, but primarily once you bought the book, you had a little bonus. It was all about me in there, with the genetics and the ages of my children and the amazing coincidences that you would have to say, this cannot be so, but it is. And then I identified myself as being God in the flesh, which is what everyone's waiting for, who is religious at least, for their Messiah. And it doesn't matter whether you're Jewish or whether you're a Muslim or whether you're a Christian. We're all waiting for this marvellous day that God's going to come back and choose them. Right? Well, I put all these books up and various titles and download for free. And then suddenly they're not available. Now, how this lulu.com works is you upload the book, and then if you bought it and you're in, say, London, it will be printed by a local printer. And it's delivered to you in almost overnight. And you have a unique copy of one of my books because, number one, they're selling like... Well, actually, at one stage they said, "You're making money out of selling books, are you?" I said, "Yes, I've sold one."
Actually, no.
And I bought it.
No, that's an exaggeration. There's two, or maybe
no, there has been a few, but as time progressed and the word was starting to get out, I may have sold 20 or 30 books in all over the period of, say, the last 7 years.
Yes, anyway. But my point was, as this video, and now this is a radio program. I'm just coming to terms. This is our first, if you like, although we have been interviewed, but this is our own show now. Thank you, Andy.
Andy and Bill
for being the force behind us to suggest that we have our own show. My point was that we are doing this piecemeal, if you like. We are videoing as we go, and then we'll splice it all together. And I was thinking about those self-published books on Lulu because should you actually pay for one rather than download it for free?
Well, you can't no more, Jane.
Look, can you please let me finish my end of the story? Look, you'll get used to us because it is a comedy a lot of the time. The point is,
my favourite comedian was George Burns, by the way, and Gracie Allen.
Anyway, the point is that if you've actually paid your $9 or $10 or whatever it is for one of those books, you will find that sometimes pages are duplicated, or there might be pages upside down, or paragraphs will be repeated, or there will be spelling mistakes in there, there will be grammar mistakes in there, and there might even be I'll try to keep it for children's help. But anyway, there might be words in there that you would have the impression of, my Jesus wouldn't say that. So, as those books have been that have gone nowhere in the world, this radio program that is also available over at the YouTube, I feel that should be the emphasis, not the other way around. We've been on the YouTube, but this is a radio program, so we're speaking to people, as you said, in their cars. If they're tuning in, they may tune out very quickly.
They tune out very quickly.
It may be late wherever you are in the world and you're hearing this strange couple who are Mr. and Mrs. Christ, if you want to call us that. That's cool. But certainly the Christ is back, that's the point. And he has a new name, just as he warned he would in the Revelation. Now, that's mentioned. For all of you Christians, we love you dearly. However, you really do need to wake up. I've been involved in the Christian church for 14 years, I would say, so I'm very well aware of the preaching and the teaching that goes on, the subjection that you have to the submissiveness, if you like, to the pastor and the hierarchy.
I'll do the boring edit, all right? Forget all that.
Hey, no.
What Bill asked was, how did I know I was Jesus? Right? That's what Bill wants to know. He says people want to know, otherwise they're going to get bored.
Andy before then said start from the beginning, from the creation, and work your way through. So what is the creation all about? Because we've answered. Well, because you've actually answered Bill. If that was a question from Bill, then it was answered in the radio program, and you said. But
they're not watching that one. This is our own radio program.
Oh, all right. Then start with the creation, and then work your way up to how it is that you know who you are.
What I can remember of creation was like a baby, total innocence, and what I found that I wanted a mother and a father. I had dreamed up the mother and father idea, and one of the earliest memories was that as the stars were being formed, it was a veil of a woman dancing with her husband, and a mother and a father. And that became, in my mind, the Yahweh Asherah, which is the god, if you like, of the early Palestinians, and it's the Essene god. And one of the myths of all of the writers and pulpits from around the world saying that Jesus was a Jew. Well, he wasn't. I was an Essene, and this was to come after the creation started to unfold. And what I started to realise that what I thought happened. And one of the first creations was matter. How matter, I just thought it up, how would you have an existence where there's beings could interact with each other, and next thing atoms are formed, and from the atoms you got your atomic scale up to about 108 elements. And most of those, by the way, from a scientific point of view, if you look at it today, the nuclear fusion rate of the sun is 657 billion tonnes per second. So you've got to factor that in. And the temperature at the centre of the sun was 25 million degrees. You've got to factor that in. And then the temperature drops to 11 degrees Fahrenheit at the corona. You've got to factor that in. All these things, as I was thinking it up, as this divine thought was starting to manifest as a reality. And it was really like a runaway train. And I had no idea what evil was. And that was left to, I suppose, a mistake, you might say. The all-knowing didn't realise as a baby that the humankind, when they stop being babies and they grow up, many of them become evil and join up into various clubs of wanting to be the creator themselves. And this is actually adequately talked about in the book of Isaiah, who didn't hear from God speaking like this Lord of the Torah, where the Lord is yapping on endlessly with his stupidity to Moses, and a team of stenographers walking around the desert writing all this down. It was utter rubbish. So we've done PowerPoints on this, of how the Torah is identified as being the dragon out of the book of Revelation, and it's actually in the stars. So you can almost say creation is backwards. From my perspective, I was a very young boy when I dreamed all this up as born onto the earth. At that time, I didn't know until I was possibly 4 years of age that my aunties on either side of a very large family, 9 and 11 children on either side of the families, of the Marshall and Golightly's, that they're all talking about the royal family that they come from. And even one auntie showed me a piece of the cross that she had, and I believe it was genuine. And when I went to school, of course, there was, in the Catholic school, they don't teach about Jesus, they teach about everything else. So Albert Einstein was raised in a Catholic school and never learnt nothing until he was 32 years of age. He picked up a gospel and read it, and that's where he became enthralled with the Gospels and the Nazarene, as he called him. So creation is really a runaway train that when human beings needed a place to live, if you like, the earth has to be a sustainable living thing, and therefore life requires an interaction between each other. And of course, as the Almighty, as a baby, this is how I thought, and suddenly it's there. It happened. So with the ongoing fall of Adam, if you like, the parables of Adam and Eve, man is continually committing evil. So with the time of the earth being formed, there were giants on the earth because they were fallen angels, because they had to create angels to do the work. And in comparison to a human being, they were giants. And this happened. Now, there are ghosts, there's angels, there's demons, there's evil spirits. All these things exist. You don't really find that too much in modern history, because the Zionists and the Antichrist, or the anti-life, anti-God, anti-love Zionists, what they call themselves today, these go back to the Talmud and Babylon, 500 BC. So as things increased in time and religious matters began to dominate, and they had to dominate with fear. So fear manifests as a need to control. So it was this runaway train where human beings made in the image of God, and this is where the mother and father idea of Yahweh Asherah, which is myself anyhow, manifests itself as two beings that were predicted in the times of the Hindi, because the Essenes go back to Enoch, and that's prior to the flood. And the word of God come down through the Essenes and was taken to the Hindi, and the Hindi themselves predicted that a man would be born who would be Yahweh, Jehovah, and he would die on the cross to redeem the sins of mankind. Now, you'd say, what a stupid thing to do. Well, it wasn't the laws of myself that were being written out in the books of supposedly penned by Moses, which it wasn't. It was the priesthood of the Sanhedrin in Babylon around 500 so BC. And they invented these laws of horror and death and stoning a man for picking up sticks on a Sabbath and all this kind of thing. And so by the time I had to come to the earth as Jesus, I had to come through a virgin, because the female is basically sinless, especially Mary. She was born of a woman of the Holy Spirit as well, the Holy Ghost herself, Anna, and they are of Irish stock through Cornwall, England, which goes back to 583 BC, when the Babylonian king, or the Chaldean king Nebuchadnezzar, was caused to defeat Zedekiah, the last king of Jerusalem. Prior to that, 722 BC, Solomon, who was a demon, he built the temple, and the temple itself was destroyed by Nebuchadnezzar. And then another temple was built under the Persians' reign, who made a decree by Cyrus to rebuild the temple. So the Jews today who are in Jerusalem wailing back and forwards against this wailing wall is actually the temple of Yahweh, because if you read your Gospels, and some of it is true, a lot of it is inaccurate, but the parts that are true and accurate is that when Jesus goes into my Father's house, he calls it, which is the temple of Yahweh, and he turfs out all of the money changers and people sacrificing doves and animals and all this kind of bullshit. Well, the laws of Moses were set up as sacrifice, so the idea was totally satanic. If you were an evil man, you could get yourself a sheep and put your sins into the sheep, and then the sheep was sacrificed in your behalf, and the god, Lucifer, this idiot who talked to Moses, could not see the sin through the blood of the lamb. Well, that was a con. It was a complete con to get people to donate. So it's a way of building up power, and of course the Pharisee priests was what it was all about. So what happened as a young boy, I got to wake up into this, and learned nothing of the Catholic Church, which to me was a bit of a mystery. However, from the Jesus sacrificial lamb, Jesus is the Lamb of God. That ties into the Great Pyramid. The 286.1 displacement factor of the Great Pyramid, built before the flood by the descendants of Enoch. So what we have then is altar to the Lord in the midst of Egypt. Isaiah 19:19, 19:20. Then there's a clue in that which I discovered, which is the value of those two verses in the Hebrew language, which is not Yiddish. Get it right out of your head. The only similarity between Yiddish and the ancient Hebrew is they use the same letters. It's actually almost a German dialect. That comes from the Khazars that had taken over Europe after they was turfed out by Michael Romanov out of Russia in 1610. So what we're saying is then the laws of Moses is complete and utter fabrication, where the story is already retold before it happened in the Great Pyramid, before the flood. So the flood happened. What happened? Mars bumped into the Earth, right? And all the water from Mars is missing. Where is it? On the Earth. And you'll find that Dr. Ballard, who was the man who discovered the Titanic, had used the CIA's equipment, which was how he discovered the Titanic, after he'd done work for the CIA looking for Russian subs that had sunk with nuclear warheads on board. What he was able to do was go down 168 feet around the Mediterranean and the Black Sea, and there's shorelines where there's ancient civilizations existed. So what happened? All the water poured off the flood. And the reason for that is that the solar system, in order for it to work with the sun generating 657 million tonnes of hydrogen per second into helium, with 4.2 million tonnes given off as light and heat, the 657 number is now worked into the King James Bible. And King James had his mother beheaded by the Freemasons under Elizabeth's rule when he was King of Scotland, and he begged the Queen not to behead his mother because she was a queen. But she went ahead and done it anyhow under the orders of the Freemasons that had set her up as a traitor to the Queen, planning to kill her, which was all fabricated. She was actually in prison in the house arrest for 14 or 15, 17 years, something like that. And she had no way in the world of organising anything against the Queen. Why would she? She was in prison. So the point being is that he got even because Edward de Vere, who was William Shakespeare, and King James, who was nominated by Elizabeth on her deathbed because she was so damned ugly, she had no children, right? Hello. So no one would make love to her. You can believe it. She was very proud of the fact, and always talking about she was a virgin queen. Well, no bloody wonder, right? If you look at the fun one of the paintings of her, goodness me, you couldn't get a chimpanzee to make love to her. So the point is, she was very proud of that. But on her deathbed, 2 weeks dying, she was spoken to by Edward de Vere, who was William Shakespeare. Repent and nominate as your successor King James, the son of the murdered Mary Queen of Scots. So this is our King James. So now he's in a position, once Francis Bacon and 47 or 53, depending on the report, scholars out of Freemason universities put together the translation called a manuscript, because it's handwritten, put it together and presented it to the king. He said, well, I want to read it first. And it took 18 months. So the Freemasons were chewing the fingernails down to the bone because they wanted that to go against the Catholic domination of certain parts of England. This is the Jacobite Revolution and this type of thing that happened. So it was a bloodbath from that point onwards. Written on hemp paper for a penny per copy, and I've always said, well, you better up rolling it up, tear a sheet out and smoke it, because most of it is rubbish. However, you've got, as I said before, Jesus was an Essene. And Essene comes from Enoch, way back in time. Now, what happened then, it's been bandied about that he was a Jew. He wasn't a Jew. He had come to save the Jews. He hasn't come to save the Jews today. I'm still an Essene. Right? And the Jews today, they're the sacrificial lamb. That's why they've been gathered together in Israel, to form a thorn in the side of the Middle East. Right? Because you're dealing with Muslims that are basically lunatics. And we've just come back from Egypt, and we know very, very intimately how these people think. Umdalala, they say every bloody sentence, which is like worship Allah. Like, shut the hell up. Talk normal talk, but no, they've got to be worshipping. And all songs are all about Allah. It is absolutely. And where does it come from? It's Talmudic Judaism who put together the Quran after butchering the family of Muhammad. And Muhammad himself, he believed, after reading a report of Caiaphas, that Caiaphas had Jesus appear to him after he had caused him to be crucified. And Jesus forgave him. Right? He felt so upset when he seen Jesus standing in the room with his father-in-law and his wife, because he had thought, maybe I did kill the Messiah, and Jesus shows up as a ghost. And he wanted to sink into the floor. He wrote a letter of resignation to the Sanhedrin. Where was the Sanhedrin? Where was the head people? Babylon. Right? That's where the letter's going to. Because it's all Talmudic Judaism that came from there. All this sin and terrible things. So Jesus has to not change the law, he wanted to fulfill the law because he wanted to be crucified. You can't crucify God. So go back to Mary. She's a virgin. So, a Jew said to me once, I don't believe Jesus' mother was a virgin. Right? He started suggesting all sorts of crude ways she could have been pregnant. Right? I said, listen, moron, have you got any children? He says, yes. I said, how many children have you got? 3. I said, when you conceived them, did you have your eyes closed? Yeah. Well, how do you know it was you or the actual father? You might have been with someone down the road, right? Because the Jews do practice a lot of the sexual abominations, let's face it. So he wasn't too impressed with that. And I said, do you think the creator of all things can't get a woman pregnant? So I've got 6 women pregnant, or 5 women pregnant, I forget the numbers now, in my young days. So I'm not proud of that. But I do have kids that walk up to me now and then and say, hey Dad, I don't know who the hell I am. Well, not quite. But that's the joke of the story, if you like. So Jesus had to fulfill the prophecies of Isaiah, which was that he would be nailed to the cross and raised again from the dead. But it's also the prophecy of the Hindus, which is mirrored in the book of Isaiah. So what happened? I'm in a schoolyard, Catholic school.
The year?
The year was 1950, 30th of August. I'm a pedantic memoriser of numbers like that. So's my mother. Oh, she's dead now. This is Leonard Golightly, the royal woman. And 2 boys are arguing the point. One boy said to the other, Jesus was a Pharisee. The other boy said, no, he wasn't. He was a Sadducee. Now the point is, in a Catholic school they don't teach you nothing about nothing. How would 2 boys of 9 years of age know what a Pharisee or a Sadducee was? However, I'm just over 6.5 years old. And I come screaming in, I'm going to fight him, right? And I'm screaming, Jesus was an Essene. And as I came towards them, they sort of stepped apart because I was known to be a bit of a fighter. And I went through a veil into another realm. And I woke up just as if we turned this video off right now and just started to play another hour's time. I was in what appeared to be an old synagogue on the steps of it. And I was looking at the rough stonework, and there was a big arched door behind me. And it was black. It had what appeared to be metal hinges, possibly iron in those days, and very, very rough. And I heard Mary call. She said, Jesus, Jesus, come. I'm Jesus. So it's no surprise to me. I just get up and I start running down this little incline towards her, and she's about 30 or 40 metres away. And as I ran up to her, I'm thinking, we're tired. We've just walked all the way from Egypt. Give me a break. In the distance is this little village, it turns out later to be Carmel, later renamed Nazareth. That's why Jesus is the Nazarene, because that's where I was raised as a child. So, as I run to her, I come to a stop, glance up at her, and she glances down to me and she says, now Jesus, I've got something to tell you. I'm waiting. She said, if the Jews find out we are Essenes, they will kill us. Now, I'm looking around at this time, turning to my right, and Joseph must have just walked out of the synagogue as I was running down to her. So he was maybe 5 or 6 metres down, walking behind us, and there was 2 smaller men dressed in black with long beards. Joseph was a very, very big man, long bushy beard, long hair. He was wearing a grey garment, tunic type garment, with on the left side there was a strip of grey material It could have been a sash, I don't think so. It seems to be able to stitched into the material. But it was I think it was red and black, thin lines, about a 4-inch space in the middle of darker grey. It may have been red and blue, but I'm sort of a bit confused about that because it's a long way away. And then the same 2 strips again. Now this is the colouring, what happens with a rainbow. If you look at a rainbow, you'll see that there's a lighter grey in the cloud. This lighter grey goes darker, then goes light again, either side of the rainbow, especially when there's 2 rainbows seen. So there's darkness in between. So that I've always thought about. However, from that point, the scene changes, and I am then in a small cottage. It's made of stone. There's a window. The window is about 3 foot high, 2 foot wide. There was 2 upright sticks and 3 sticks that were sort of into the mortar or the material itself, and there was a brownish coloured curtain blowing slightly in the breeze. So Mary says to me, and they're dressed in dark colours, I think it was black, and it was probably 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock at night, and she said to me, "Now Jesus, we're going to see the high priest, don't follow us." She barked at me like that. But she knew what type of kid I was, right? Never listened. So as they walked out and closed the door behind them, I opened the door naturally, and I seen them walking in the shadow of the full moon, or not quite a full moon, near enough, and they were sort of hunched up, creeping along. And I thought, if you're going to draw attention to yourself, look like you're sneaking about, right? Like, how stupid are they? So this is what I think. This is how I look at it. So then they disappeared around a corner about 10 or 15 metres away. Later on with the astronomy program, which I got in Canada in 1991, it was put together by Carl Sagan. And he suggested that the Star of Bethlehem was the 17th of June 2 BC. And I thought, well, that's interesting. Because it was what happened was the Magi had followed the star as Jupiter was being slowly overtaken by Venus. And I do feel that M42 was also blinking on and off, because that has been happening in history, and I'm waiting for it to come back on now because it seems to have gone out. So that's why I've got lots of astronomy equipment here. Anyhow, when I looked at the program, I knew what date it was that this happened in Australia, so I went back 2424 days, which is Jesus, because after all, if anything's going to happen, and I could show you in many thousands of drawings how there's all synchronicity fits together of holy numbers. The number 2424 in the Greek concordance is Jesus. So 2424 added to my birthday gave me the 30th of August, and that would be the appropriate time that this vision would occur. Then you go to the 17th of June 2 BC, and this is what Carl Sagan suggested as being the Star of Bethlehem, and it is. And I can prove that as well. So what I did, I added 2424 days to that, went forward, and that gave me the 5th of February 6 AD. Look at the moon, and sure enough, it's almost a full moon. And in percentages, it was 88.8%, so that's a Jesus number. So it was this kind of confirmation, and over the years, many strange miracles have happened. And occasionally, I get a voice speaks to me. When I was a child, I thought everybody had the same thing. It wasn't unusual. This voice I recognised, and it turns out to be my voice today. So the angel Gabriel would speak to me and bark in the water and what I had to do, and I'd go and do it without thinking about it. I did find out, however, if you told any of the oldies, they look at you very strange, and you could end up in a psych ward. So many things that happened in my lifetime, I didn't bother telling my oldies, because they're as thick as tissue or planks and no spirituality whatsoever. So I didn't do that. I just kept note of what was happening over time, and I could see into the future the things I had to do. Marry a woman that come from a small town in Lithgow, and the date I got married was 1162.6 weeks after I was born, 23rd of April 1966. 1966 in the Hebrew concordance is Lucifer, and that's sure as hell who I married, the town harlot, right? But out of that produced children that would later, and I'll show you, not in this talk here, but in one of our videos, which we'll do tomorrow, I'll go into more details of how all these numbers come together. But on a date I was born, my brother was, half-brother, was 8.88 years old. The sunrise to moonrise was 888 minutes. 8,880 days old. I'm in Port Alberni, Canada, and my daughter was born. The sunrise to sunset for Port Alberni on that date, May the 4th, 1968, was 888 minutes. She was conceived on the 29th of July the year before, and I remember I was there. I was quite horrified with the ordeal. However, Jupiter was above for 888 minutes, and that's 88,800 miles wide. So this is just a glimpse into how it all fits together in such a miraculous way that there is no doubt. Now, I don't need to convince you people out there, that doesn't matter. What I've got to convince is the people that's trying to kill me for all these years now. It goes back to Fukushima. Now what's happened there is these nuclear reactors have been built around the world because once the Zionists knew that I was on the earth, they knew, they're demons, not the people themselves because they're the moron. The demons knew that they are doomed. So they get human beings to make them lots of money. You do this, you do that, put you in positions of power. And the demons are in fact the same demons that was killed off in the flood. And that was the idea of killing the giants, right? Because they mated with women. So their offspring also reincarnate. And when they reincarnate, like you all reincarnate, you're reincarnating for judgment. You're here for judgment, right? Not to say you're sorry. You're here to be judged by the Father. So the Father had a way of getting here. So the little baby who thought all this up with his runaway train, evil was encountered. And the little baby, as an adult, if you like, of the Yahweh figure and the Asherah figure, God made man and woman in our image, right? This is what had to be addressed. Because human beings were, if you look at the Hindi way of looking at things, the past, present and future are all happening at the same time. That is why I could step through the veil and go back to the same age I was when I was walking back from Egypt with Mary and Joseph. And Joseph, having a long beard and the long hair, and these compatriots, as he's walking along, had his big arms over the shoulders of his two small men. He was about 6'5" or 6 inches tall. He was huge, with this gigantic beard. Now, the Essenes never cut their hair. Even when I was a child, my stepfather, he would cut my hair with a pair of hand clippers. And he was a sadist, right? And he'd cut the back of my head up here and then rip the hair out. Then I'd complain and say, shut up. Right? He was teaching me that he was the boss, right? So I disliked having my hair cut. I still do to this day. I haven't been to a barber for years. Right? I think it was 1963 or something like that. Right? True. Because I wouldn't let people cut my hair. I hated it. I even let my little sausage here, she wants to cut my hair now and then. She won't let me cut her hair, of course.
No, totally.
Well, you're an Essene, that's why.
And his hair is like wool. It's not like...
So, how are we going for time?
Let's see. I've got a stopwatch going here. No, I haven't.
You mean yours didn't stop?
What's
that say?
36.
Okay, we're looking at another 4 minutes then. That'll give us an hour, because we've walked around the house showing that we're human beings, and the idea being, if we're so accessible and we're all over the world, we're known by everybody from Russia to Dar es Salaam, why don't they come and kill me? Well, they've been trying to kill me many times over. Matter of fact, you're looking at a man with half a heart.
Yes.
There's a hole in my heart as well. This happened in Egypt. And I've also got a blood disorder that is caused by nuclear radiation that was given to me many years ago. So I've got leukemia. But you see, the soul of the Messiah is one on the outside. It doesn't matter what's happening on the inside. You can't kill me. Right? So, if this is the case, in your case, if you are also a person that has had many strange experiences by coincidence, and you start looking at who you might have been in the past, and now what did Bill say he was? He's descended from...
yes, Archduke Ferdinand.
That's his grand uncle. This is a man who's the brains behind what we're doing at the moment.
Yes, the programming of Freedom Talk Radio and SETV.
Who was the Austrian king that was murdered? His wife was shot in the stomach, I believe, and she also died in agony. And how that story came about was that the direction that they were supposed to be travelling down was changed. They was going to the palace, so they changed direction. And on that street that they changed into, I think it might have been a Yugoslav or something, shot him and his wife. And she later died in agony.
So that was the...
It's all set up.
Yeah, a total setup that brought on World War I.
There's your Zionist from a bit of whatever they was called in those days, but the same people. So the demons get into these people to do those things to start World War I, and the most maligned person on the planet is, of course, Hitler. Hitler was a saint. All this Holocaust nonsense, it's all nonsense, right? We've been there, we've been to Poland, it's bullshit, right? We've spoken, and I grew up with Jews. I spoke to Jews that had parents had gone through the Holocaust, and how come you go through the Holocaust, you still get out at the end of 4 years? Hello? I thought they was burning it at the stake as soon as you got into the place, or into the furnace, right? No, it's rubbish. Didn't happen. Matter of fact, they're reporting how good it was in those places. So let's, in our time to come, the truth will be worked out, and there'll be no more bullshit, the Holocaust. And the Jews who think they were, it's rubbish.
Yeah.
Right? It really is rubbish. Like, wake up. Right? I'm here to save the Jews, and you're also being attacked and herded into Israel because of the Holocaust. It didn't happen. Right? And that's why they keep on saying 6 million Jews died in World War I. 6 million Jews died in the Holocaust. Why? In the Zohar, it predicts that 6 million Jews will die. But they say if they say it often enough, then it's not going to happen.
And so it really is a story. Call it a wag the dog. There was also a reparations racket. They've got the story out there that 6 million Jews were gassed. Absolute physical impossibility. It was not on the agenda at all.
And with that, we say, hasta.
Justice for Germans.
Justice for Germany.
If you want to know the truth, go to justiceforgermans.com.
This is a small lake. It's an artificial lake. It was built by a wealthy golf pro, sportsman. So we presume it was, it may have been tennis, who knows. Now from this fence line here, that's that point there where that bit of carpet's drying out there. And if we look in the distance, straight across, past the edge of that island to a house on the other side, and we measure a straight line, you can do this in Google Earth, it's 657 metres. And what that is how many times the word Lord is found in the New Testament, but only in the King James Bible, because the King James Bible itself is a trap. The Satanists thought they had it all made with the Freemason King James Bible, but King James was, his mother was beheaded by Freemasons, and he was going to get even. This is the whole point. So he and Edward de Vere, the 17th Earl of Oxley, delayed the translation by... There's our little pet ducks come around every time I see as they come out for something to eat. That's the male closest to us and the female, and of course the little ducks, they'll come up, these little black ones over here. Often will come out and they'll be inside here, and of course they'll scurry and get through the fence and take off. So we have 40 odd swans which usually come flying in, and we'll get some photographs of that later when we feed them. It's quite a spectacular sight to see the swans coming in. Now when we first arrived there was only 3 swans. Now there's 40 to 50. Sometimes ducks had come in, there's hundreds of them. Now over the other side of the bush there's another 2 lakes, natural lakes. So the houses around here are very, very pleasant place to live. And I want all of you to be able to live
yes.
like this.
Now Tugum is the name of this small...
Yeah, Tugum.
It used to be a fishing village, but of course, like all small fishing villages, they morph over time into pleasant places to live for the rest of us. Tugum is Aboriginal, and it means place of rest.
Yeah.
And for us, this is what it is, and I can't see really well because I haven't got my sunglasses on, however.
It's all right, I can see you.
Yeah, so paradise comes to the earth. The kingdom of God, the Lord's Prayer was a quantum that as Jesus, he taught his disciples to teach others how to pray. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on the earth as it now was in heaven. So the efforts of the enemy of everybody's soul, that spirit, has been to destroy the creation, destroy the earth, destroy mankind made in the image of God. So the Christ has to come back. He promised that he would. And, of course, he came as a thief in the night.
And also to offend everybody, because that's the whole idea. You see, expecting a little prophecy to come true, which is quite stupid, that the Almighty is going to be sitting on a horse 500 feet high or whatever, and every eye in the world is going to see it. Well, that's called cyberspace. And no one wants to be judged. However, the judge is not a person that you get to call an election over. If you've got to face judgment, you are dragged into court, and that's it. You are basically standing there to be judged, and whatever that judge decides, that's your outcome. So, with that said, the prophecies of Psalms 118:22 is the stone the builders rejected has become the headstone of the corner. Now, that is a slight mistranslation. It's the head of the pyramid, and this is referred to in Jesus in the Essene Gospels, which, of course, no church will ever talk about because they are Satanists. All churches are Satanists. No pulpit will be talking about me, or will they be talking about how to cure AIDS like we do, and how to cure malaria, which we do, and how to cure cancer, which we do. It's all on record. You can Google it. Just put my name in there, Brian Leonard Marshall or Brian Golightly Marshall or any of those with New Guinea AIDS, and it'll come up to a live interview that occurred in some years ago after we came back from New Guinea, because the fellow who was the reporter for the ABC TV in Australia, his name was Marshall, and I said to him, if you don't do this right, I'll have your ass, because you're not going to disgrace the name Marshall. Well, he actually took that to heart, because I sent him a very long text, and he did do a good job of getting the point out. So we'll walk around the house now. We'll show you the front of it. This is a very large house. Lovely people live next door. They have no idea who we are. We don't go up and down the street waving banners and telling the locals who we are. We just go and do what we've got to do. This is all part of the there's a media room in there. There's Joel working away. See if I can get a bit of a shot of him. There it is. He's been with us for years, and he was here, of course, when we was talking to the Pope. Now, talking to the Pope is something that normal people don't do.
Pope Benedict.
This is Pope Benedict. Or Francis is the Antichrist, because Benedict showed him who we were and all the information and so forth. And Francis, this was after he was elected, so we was talking to Pope Benedict before the conclave. And there's a lovely street here. There's a little doggy across there. That's our dog. And if you notice, you Americans, we keep on the left-hand side of the road, because you Americans are on the right-hand side of the road. So there's the house. You can see my shirt there.
With pink stains in various places.
I don't know where the pink stain come from.
Well,
it was the ink I had in my pocket, wasn't it?
No. It was a wash that I probably did with a red shirt or something. So. Okay,
so there's the house we live in. It's a lovely house, and it's a rental. We don't own it. We don't own. I'm probably just the poorest man in Australia that isn't living on the street. If it wasn't for an old age pension, I would be on the street. So. So we'll go inside through the laundry and have a look at what's in the garage there. There's a little dog. When we first heard it, we thought it was being slaughtered.
we thought
but
it was
when the people go out and feed it,
slaughtered.
this crazy little dog starts yowling at the top of its lungs. There's a distiller making water. That's not the only water we have. When you distill water, it is depleted of a lot of nutrients, and you have to. There's another one. I bought this, and I'll just show you. I bought this on eBay, and you'll notice there the number is 888. So that's how little miracles happen. The manufacturers. There's the old bus we've got. This is an old 1999. This is a lovely. In Australia, it's called a utility, and it's a 1996. It's got a candy apple green. This was my birthday present a couple of years ago.
Last year.
Last year, like when I was 70, 60,
No,
69.
69. And it's the Ark of the Covenant, because the Ark of the Covenant carries around...
Ark of the Covenant.
Well, the Ark of the Covenant
carries the Word of God.
Now,
right?
here's a great opportunity for a little lesson. All right, the Word of God. Jesus. He became the Word manifest.
In the flesh.
So the Word of God is a man walking around, 2 legs. That's who he was as Jesus. And of course, back again in his second incarnation, he is the Word of God all over again. That's what Pope Benedict recognised. So yes, this is the Ark of the Covenant, and our Lord on the other side.
So this is the old gentleman, Yitzhak Kaduri, 108 years old. So the worldwide church is waiting for the Jews to find their Messiah. Well, they did. And he said it was Jesus. So with the Catholic Church, announced by Pope Benedict XVI that he had met the Messiah and spoke with me. And of course this was before the conclave, and when Francis the Beast was elected. So if we go back up to the beginning of this, there's the Pope in a 45-minute discussion with Benedict, and you see that white box there. Well, that's all the communications that was going between Pope Benedict and myself prior to the Antichrist being elected Pope. I told the Pope basically, whoever walks out of the conclave, you should spend 25 cents on a bullet and shoot him and save the world a lot of problems. So that's Francis to the right there. And there's a box of emails. Now I can't stress to you enough that when he found out that a Pope had actually announced that Christ was back, he had him arrested on the 3rd of April, and 3 of his staff were killed. Now, this man, Francis, is particularly an evil man. Now, I want to read to you what Einstein said. He says, "I am a Jew, but I am enthralled by the luminous figure of the Nazarene, Albert Einstein." Now, a man by the name of Verick interviewed him in 1929, and what we're saying here is what life means to Einstein, an interview by George Sylvester Viriak, the Saturday Evening Post, the 26th of October 1929, page 17, as reported in Einstein, which is a book, A Life, 1996, by Dennis Bryan. When asked about clippings from the magazine article, reported his comments on Christianity as taken down by Viriak. Einstein carefully read the clipping, as he did with everything, and replied, "That is what I believe. As a child, I received instruction both in the Bible and in the Talmud. I am a Jew, but I am enthralled by the luminous figure of the Nazarene. Jesus is too colossal for a pen of phrasemongers, however awful. No man can dispose of Christianity with a bon mot. No one can read the Gospels without feeling the actual presence of Jesus. His personality pulsates in every word. No myth is filled with such life." Now, he never read the Gospels until he was 32, even though he went to a Catholic school. He was not taught anything about Jesus. So that should tell you what the Catholics are all about. They don't teach children. And I went to a Catholic school and I learnt nothing about the Nazarene, the Jesus figure, any of that, the crucifixion, nothing, absolutely. And I haven't read the Bible to this day. I haven't read the Quran, or I haven't read the Torah. I don't need to. You're talking to the Word of God. That's the whole point. So that's printed off now, is it?
Yes, did you? It's on the board there.
Oh, good. So I'll show you how, when you are driving home, you'll be able to listen to what we're saying, and then go to these YouTube addresses, and there's http://www.freedomtalkradio.net. Then there's www.youtube.com user Golightly Marshall. Then there's twitter.com/G /M /hour. That's Golightly Marshall Hour. Then you've got the facebook.com Golightly Marshall, and you've also got Pinterest, pinterest.com/GM hour/. So here is Joel. He's not married, ladies, so send in your applications and your general specifications.
We're not here to discuss these things over.
So Joel was witness to us talking to Benedict, and Joel and I are great mates. So we've been together for a long time in the same family situation. I've adopted him, and yeah. So there you go. If any of you ladies want him out there, you have to go through me. There's our aerial surveillance. We haven't tried this yet. We just bought it. It's over a 2 metre span. So we're just waiting for the bits and parts to charge up, and we're going to take it out.
So we've entered the drone game.
This is the drone. Yeah.
It's like fight fire with firefight drones with drones.
Yes, that's right. And this is the control panel for it. It's quite extraordinary. I mean, what you can do with this is unbelievable. These things.
And we've got absolutely no idea how to control it.
Not the slightest idea. So this is where all the processing is done with Joel. He's an expert on this sort of stuff, and sure, it certainly exceeds me in my ability with computers. And this is a bit of the artwork that was done by a friend of ours. This is when we married in Fiji on the 4th of December, which is the birth and death date of King William the Lion of Scotland. Born 1143 and died in 1215. In the Burke's period, sure, other reports of King William, they've taken it back by a year. He was 72 years old when he died, and they've taken it back to 71. I haven't figured out why yet. And there's some of the little young ones in the family. And this is the artwork by my dearly, very, very talented wife. And we have... I've done several arts and works in my time. I do one and then never do it again, because you can train yourself to be a good artist. I'd say, well, just do one and see how good you are. This is some of the astronomy equipment waiting for the planets to arrive with Nibiru. We're all set up there. There's more artwork. There's another one I did there. This is called La Roma. And the dates are the important things. This was done on 18th of December 1980. Now the 18th of December is when lunation 0 was set, and I didn't know at that time. There's another one I did. This is done with my finger. That took about 10 minutes. There's one at the back here. It's an important painting, because I did that in Canada, and it was the 31st of the 7th, 1977, and when I did that, it's a man with a golden helmet. Now when I returned to Australia in 1997, 96 and then in 1997, is where I met my third wife, Michelle, at a place called Rembrandt's. And when we walked into this dinner dance for people over 29, mind you, I had a bit of trouble getting in. I said, "You're not old enough, son." So But listen, don't worry about it, I'll bring a note from your mother. So this was hanging on the wall. A painting by a photograph of the original Rembrandts was hanging on the wall. And I'd done the painting in 31st of July in 1977, so there's 3 sevens in that. And then you calculate from that distance in time when I painted that to when the night I first attended Rembrandt's and met Michelle, which was, well, I met her on May the 11th, 1997, which was precisely 8 years after I left Australia to go back to Canada the years before with my second wife. I have a bit of bad luck with women, they always seem to be demonised. So I keep trading it in like Henry Ford for a younger model, and this is where we end up with the youngest model so far. And she's been pretty good. I've decided to keep her. What are you looking at me like that for, huh?